Hello, listeners, and welcome to our very first Summer Lyric and Lore podcast. Our inaugural guest is the wonderful Christopher Carey. Christopher, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. I was wondering to myself how many shows we've worked together on.
Oh my God.
It's got to be at least a dozen, I would think.
With you in the pit or on stage, yeah, it's got to be close to that. I mean, I think you've probably been involved one way or another in almost everything that I've done at Summer Lyric. So, yeah.
Well, when the show we're going to talk about, I wasn't quite on in the picture yet, so that's a great segue to.
I wondered about that. Yeah, whether
yeah,
you were on at that time.
Yeah, I came on board as an actor in '96.
Okay.
And then as the conductor in 2001. Okay.
So
the one we're going to talk about is one of our shows for the summer, which is Company. And you told me that was the Summer Lyrics 1992 production. Is that right?
That's right. Yes.
Yes.
Right,
and what?
Right
and
before
what,
you were born.
And what role did you play?
I was Bobby.
Yes, I figured as much. And tell me about who directed it.
Let's see. Michael directed it. Michael Howard.
Yeah.
Wonderful friend of both of ours.
Yes, of course.
And it was my second show at Summer Lyric. I had done Pajama Game the year before with God rest her, Cynthia Owen. And I think that actually Frank Monachino directed that show. I think that was the last show that he directed, if I'm getting that right. And so I just kind of snuck in there under the wire right before he retired.
Actually, I think he was the year I started in '96. The middle show was Kismet, and I'm pretty sure he directed that one. So I think he was still directing a little bit later than that.
Yeah, maybe so.
Who were some of your other? Do you remember who were some of your other cast members for that company?
Oh yeah, well, that was such an amazing cast, and everybody in it was better than me, by far, in terms of experience and talent and stagecraft and just general knowledge and all of that. It was kind of a who's who of the New Orleans Musical Theater Company at that time. Liz Argus, Diane Lala, Cynthia Owen, Steve Benton, Terry Gervais, Kilty Reedy, Cassie Worley, Larry Hessdorfer, Diana Boylston. Let me see. Ken Risch, Becky Allen.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, it was an amazing cast. And then we had, offstage a chorus of singers that had a bunch of the best of the best Two-Line Summer Lyric regulars. I think Andy Reid was in that, and Tom Grantham, I think, was singing, and a bunch of other people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know almost every.
Also, I forgot Alton Gino and Pam Gregory were also in that 92 production. Yeah.
Wow.
Can't forget that.
There were only a couple of people you mentioned that I don't know, and Cassie was then again in our 2009 production of it, so she did both in a row.
Yeah. Well, we do that at Summer Lyric. We recycle people.
Yeah, it does happen.
I think I've done My Fair Lady twice at Summer Lyric, and I think I've done Music Man twice at Summer Lyric.
Oh, wow.
I think. Yeah. But anyway, going for me, because, I had done some shows at Le Petit, and as I said, this was only my second show at Summer Lyric, and before I had done a couple of shows over here on the North Shore. But going to rehearsal every day, and I've said this to people over the years, going to rehearsal for that show was like a master class in musical theater for me every single day. Watching these amazing professionals and how they worked and how they approached characters, and how they were always completely prepared, ready to go, and they were inventive and creative, trying new things all the time, open to anything, allowing themselves to be made vulnerable and everything, and just being the wonderful people that they are, because they really, really are.
Yeah.
I just learned so much about the whole process of doing a terrific musical, and of course working with Michael, and I think Pamela Jean was the musical director of that show, if I remember right.
I
And of
would
course,
imagine.
I'd done a couple of shows with Pam before, and that pairing was just magical.
Of course, yeah. Was there a choreographer for that show?
Yeah, I think that Alton
Yeah, I would have
choreographed it.
thought so too. Yeah.
I think so, yeah. And um, yeah, much to his chagrin, he had to choreograph me, because as you know, I don't choreograph. Uh,
No, I
so
think like me, you move well, as they say
exactly,
in the
yeah,
business.
right, yeah, like we did in Little Night Music, our little uh,
Yeah.
waltz thing going back and forth across the stage.
And the thing is, I stepped on Liz's toes so many times, and she has a way of making me look good anyway. She's just
She
such
makes
a
everybody look
graceful
good.
creature. It's
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
it does. She's extraordinary. And that, I think that was the first show that she and I were in together, because she was not in Pajama Game at all. And so of course that was the beginning of a long and wonderful friendship and collaboration on Summer League stage for Liz and me. We did
Of
a bunch of
course.
shows together after that. But talking about the dancing and everything with Alton, the two most frightening words, and I probably told you this before, but the two most frightening words I've ever seen in any script, it was when we were getting ready for company, and I saw the words Bobby's tap break.
Ah. So what did
Uh,
we do there?
yeah. Well, it was we got creative. Alton at first tried to teach me how to do something as basic as a time step, and that was clearly not happening. But he had experience with this because, he'd worked a lot with Mark Embry, and Mark celebrates the fact that neither one of us can dance at all. So, uh, what we did was, there was in the middle of the stage, upstage, there was an elevator, and or elevating platform, and we use it as an elevator, and for various things. And so I ended up on that platform and raising it up so that my feet were actually not visible to the people in the house. It was visible to the people in the mezzanine, but not in the orchestra, right? And so when it came the part for Bobby's tap break, I just kind of moved around looking like I was doing something like dancing. And they had somebody off stage that was dubbing taps for me. So it was all smoke and mirrors.
It's a Barnum and Bailey world, just as phony as it can be. But I love that though. We always have to get creative when, we
Yeah.
have to. That's just how
Yeah.
it goes.
Yeah.
Now that was a while ago. Are there other like memories that stand out to you from that production?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Several. There were really three scenes in that show that I remember very, very fondly. The first was with Liz. She played April, back then they called them stewardesses, that Bobby met in a party or something like that and brought back to his apartment. And April has this monologue. There's a scene, they have kind of two monologues. April has the first one, and we called it the butterfly monologue.
Yes.
And it goes on, and it is absolutely hilarious, especially the way Liz did it. Liz incorporated everything from ballet to slapstick in doing this, and her just wonderful characterization of April. And the monologue ends on just this enormous laugh, right? Just the whole house is in tears. They're laughing so hard. And as I was watching her every night, all I had to do was sit there. But I remember distinctly sitting there and biting the insides of my cheeks to stop myself from laughing because I had the best seat in the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Bobby had a monologue after that, and it's just a brilliantly written monologue, perfectly paced. You know, it's just great, and it ends with a huge laugh, and then there's a tag on it that gives the audience another huge laugh. So that scene really stood out. The second one was with Cynthia. She sang "Another 100 People Just Got Off of the Train."
Mm.
And of course, for any of your viewers who remember Cynthia or ever saw her, they know what a performer she was.
Pure show business.
Pure.
Yeah.
And, you know, she had the ability to, you know, take an audience and put them right in the palm of her hand, you know, and just manipulate them in a loving, really, really wonderful way. And so, you know, she ends the song on this huge note, right? And holds it for days. You know, it just, that's what she could do. She had this amazing control of her voice and breath. And so the audience goes insane, right? And the way that it was blocked was she was standing upstage center facing out, and I was downstage left of her looking up at her, right? And the audience is going insane. I've got the next line. So I get to decide when we're going to break the applause, and I would just let it go, and just let it go and go and go. And Cynthia would ultimately get self-conscious a little bit, and she'd give me a look, you know, like, all right. And so then I'd get it going. But that was the other one. And then the third one was with Diane Lala. She played the girl that Bobby always really cared about, and I think Bobby felt like he was ultimately going to be with at the end of his story. And the two of them are having lunch on a park bench in New York. And she's got a little, you know, brown paper bag, and there was a sandwich in it, and she gives half of it to me. And I'm just about to take a bite out of the sandwich, and she says that she's leaving New York. She's met a guy. She's going to get married, and you know, she's going to leave New York. And Bobby is just crushed. And we played this wonderful, tiny little, very intimate scene. And I think it was the first time that I was really called upon to do that kind of acting. And Diane could not have been a better, you know, partner in that scene. She was just so genuine and so brilliant, you know, and just very matter of fact and honest, which is of course what she's like anyway. But that really was the character.
Yeah.
So yeah, those especially.
Beautiful.
And then there was a great scene where Alton and Pam Gregory were the married couple,
Mm-hmm.
and she'd been studying karate, and
Yeah.
he, you know, was giving her a hard time about that, and they get into a rough and tumble thing, and Bobby ends up getting pulled into it, and we all end up in kind of a pile on you know, the middle of the stage, and that was just incredibly fun. Just getting to work with the two of them. Pam was wonderful. I haven't seen her in a long time, but we stay in touch.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, that part, but that whole show, it just scared the life out of me because, you know, of my inexperience. The fact that Bobby is a tenor, which, as you well know, I'm not. And, you know, just kind of being the main character in the play with all of these incredible other actors in it. You know, it was terrifying. It
Yeah.
really was.
Yeah, I know the feeling. When I started at Summer Lyric, I didn't have any experience myself, and at one point during the rehearsal run, I think it was a Brigadoon. It was, and I was the lead in that. And I said, Michael Howard, I don't think I can do this. I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And he said, yes, you can. And so we managed to work through that. So I know that feeling. What about the theme of the show in general? Like, what's your takeaway from the show, from the piece, the art?
Well, I think it's ultimately, it's kind of like, you know, Bobby's big number, being alive. You know, it's a celebration of life. And of course, the problem with Bobby is he's kind of stuck in the early part of his youth. He's kind of stuck in his 20s or whatever. And the whole thing takes place during his 30th birthday, right? And so he just kind of can't get off that point, and can't commit to not only to any romantic relationship, but to the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And I think over the course of the play, he's got all these wonderful friends who are all insane, and they're all, they all want to see him get paired up. But his arc, I think, is that by the end of the play, he realizes that he's got to get in gear, and he's got to live his life, and he can't be 25 for the rest of his life. And when he, well, I don't want to, no spoilers, I guess, for anybody who doesn't know the show, but I think the final scene of the show reflects that.
Absolutely. Can I give you this little questionnaire?
Okay.
What was your first
Colbert questionnaire?
The what?
The Colbert questionnaire, on Stephen Colbert.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have done. Yeah.
Favorite sandwich or something?
No, nothing like that. What do you have a favorite show of all time?
Wow. That's really hard to answer.
Of course.
Yeah. I think maybe Carousel.
Oh, and coming right up. Yeah.
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 And I don't say that because it's in the season, but I did that show at Loyola Opera Theater with Missy, Melissa Marshall. She was 4. She was a very young and precocious Julie Jordan. And I just think that the older I get, when I look at Rodgers and Hammerstein's stuff, their work, it becomes so much more significant than when you just look at the movie, or you're younger when you're looking at it. Yeah. I mean, to write a show that had, first of all, just such unbelievably beautiful music, right? I mean,
yeah.
For all of the main characters. I mean, You'll Never Walk Alone. Of course, Soliloquy. If I Loved You. I mean, all of these. But then the themes in that show are so dark and so serious, and to create a show like that in the time frame that they created that show, right?
Yeah.
When American musical theater was, just kind of coming out of the vaudeville stage, right? And to put those themes in it of poverty and social class and domestic violence and all of these really, really difficult things. I think that's remarkable. And if I had to have a second, it would be Man of La Mancha.
Oh, yeah. Which is one of our collaborations, you and me.
Yes, that's right.
What was the first show you were ever involved with? You were ever on stage for?
Okay. Well, I wasn't a theater kid growing up at all, but the first show I was ever in, I think I was in 6th grade, and it wasn't a musical. It was a little school play kind of thing, and it was called Swifty O'Boyle. And the basic plot of it, because this was in the late 1960s, okay, and the idea of women doing men's things was hilarious. And so the whole thing was about this small college where there was a young female athlete named Swifty O'Boyle, who was this incredible prodigy. And the school had a football team, but they weren't very well organized or funded or anything. And so they had a Shakespearean professor who doubled as the football coach. And that was me. And, so he finds out about Swifty O'Boyle and insists on her being on the football team, and hilarity ensues. And that was the first thing that I ever did. And then I didn't do anything
Okay.
again um, until I was out of law school. When I
Okay.
started doing theater in New Orleans.
Well, and you've already answered what was your first summer lyric show. That would be the Pajama Game, I guess, 1991, right?
Right.
Um,
A great story about that, by the way.
yeah.
Um, Linda Mintz, who was married to my former law partner Albert Mintz, who has left us now.
Yes.
But of course, you know Linda. Everybody knows
Yes, I
Linda.
do.
And she had seen me in a couple of things at Le Petit, and she asked me if I had ever thought about doing something at Summer Lyric. And I'd seen shows at Summer Lyric, and I always thought that was so far beyond. I couldn't even conceive of being on that stage because I had seen, Mark Embry and Leslie Castay and, all of these unbelievable talents. I knew that, Summer Lyric brought talent in from New York and Chicago and, all over the place, to do leads there. And, but Linda insisted. So she made an appointment. She brought me in to meet Mr. Monachino. And we had a little interview thing, and I sang for him. And I remember he asked me, "What do you want to do this for?" He said, you're a young lawyer, you're a young partner in your firm, you're married, you're probably going to want to have kids. What do you want to get involved in theater for? And I told him it wasn't really a question I was prepared for. I said, I guess just because it's in my blood. And I told him all about, my mom's history in the theater and her sister having been in the theater and my uncle having been in the theater and my cousin having been in the theater. And it's just kind of our family curse. And that seemed to satisfy him. So, he ended up just sticking me into Pajama Game.
Well, I was already going to ask because over your right shoulder, I see a beautiful 1950s portrait of your mother.
Yeah.
That I've seen on social media. So just give the listeners just a taste of her involvement in the theater.
Yeah, sure. Briefly, came from Pittsburgh, went to New York to study voice and become a singer. And she ended up having a nice little career. Her main claim to fame, she did a number of shows. She was in Brigadoon. She was in Kiss Me Kate. And these are, the original productions in the late 40s, early 50s. And then she was cast in Guys and Dolls. And the original woman who played Sarah the Mission Doll in Guys and Dolls was a woman named Isabel Bigley. And they brought Mom in because I think things were not going well with Miss Bigley. She'd been with the show for several months. And when Mom said that when she met her, Mom was being very, very, courteous and all that. And the one thing she remembered that Isabel Bigley said to her was, "I hope you're up on the part," because like 2 days later, she was gone. And Mom ended up going on. And so she became the second woman to play Sarah the Mission Doll in Guys and Dolls.
Wow.
And it's Guys and Dolls has kind of become our family show. I've done a couple of productions of it. My sister has been in it and has directed it. That's Mom's story in a nutshell.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you have a bucket list show to do?
Probably.
Or role?
If there was one that I look, I've been really fortunate, right? I mean, I've gotten to do a lot of the roles that I never thought I'd get a chance to do, and most of them at Summer Lyric. So thank you to Summer Lyric for that. But I think maybe Billy Flynn in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I would have somehow thought you have played that by now, but you didn't. No.
Came close a couple of times.
Yeah.
And either the timing wasn't right or, I think the year that I did Camelot, for me being a practicing lawyer, doing more than one show in the summer was kind of, impossible.
For sure.
So that year, they were doing, yeah, there were three C's. There was Camelot, Chicago, and it might have been Chorus Line. I'm not sure. Um, and Michael Howard asked me if I would do Camelot and Chicago, and I couldn't. So I told him, well, I just can't. You know, they said, well, if you have to choose one, what'll it be? And I chose Camelot because I had grown up listening to that show, and I'd always dreamed about being in it.
Of course.
And I remember he first. Well, the casting was a little hard to get settled, but Michael got some good input from some other people and ended up casting me as Lancelot. And I loved that production.
Yeah, I did too. And that was, I was in the pit. You were, Missy was Guinevere.
Right. And
Richard Hutton was
yeah.
King Arthur. Yeah, it was a great production.
Nigel, what's his last name?
Oh, yes, Nigel. I can't remember his last name right now, but
right.
he was, I forgot the character's name.
Mordred.
Yeah, Mordred. Yeah.
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 And I think Terry Gervais played the voice in the tree, you know.
I think so. Yeah. And was it Stalker Fontaine who played?
He was Merlin.
Yes, he was Merlin. Yes.
Yeah. And
boy, bringing up the memories. Wow.
Talk about an amazing trooper. You probably remember this. I think we were in dress rehearsal, and you know, he had these long robes and heavy beard and big wig and the whole thing. And I think he had just exited right, and there was this terrible crash. He had fallen down backstage. He tripped over some stuff, and you know, Stalker was not a young man when he did that role.
Right.
And he ended up with a horrible, huge bruise on his leg and everything. But he went on. You know, he did the show. He was a real trooper. He was
absolutely
great performer. Wonderful guy.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I think we can leave it there. I think this was great. I had a lot of fun talking with you. Yeah.
Thank you for asking me to do this. This was great.
Absolutely. I'm gonna you stay on. I'm just gonna push stop here, and then I'll just say goodbye to you privately. And
okay.
Thank you for
Thanks,
being
everybody.
on.